Okay, let's get this party started. Hey, everybody. It's me, Vorm, here to play a board game on Tabletop Simulator. That board game is called Rome, Fate of an Empire, designed by Joe Clipfell, and it has caught my interest, and I'm going to play it. So, a couple things to note. First, the version I'm playing is a TTS module, as I mentioned. Appears to be a slightly older prototype version. There are some things I've noticed from reading the manual and watching some other videos and doing research on BGG and such that are different from this version to the current retail release version. So if you are familiar with the game and the retail release, you will notice some differences. It's mostly name changes, a few error corrections, probably some balance changes I haven't noticed, things like that. But yeah, gameplay seems largely the same. It's going to be extremely representative of the actual game. I will also note that you can't get a copy right now. So if you are interested in the game, and hopefully you are after seeing me play it, you know, it's tough to source. I cannot find one myself. There's none in the retail channels. There's none on the secondary market. I know there's supposed to be some kind of crowdfunding something or other in March, I believe. But I don't know. Let me turn this mic down a bit. Gain is a little high. I don't know if that means it's going to be available in March, or if March is just when the crowdfunding thing kicks off, and it'll be another year before copies are actually available. So, if anybody out there in internet land happens to know where I might be able to get a copy, because it seems a very interesting game to me, and I'd love to play it for realsies on my tabletop, then you know, shoot me a message. Okay, so I have done a lot of research, done a lot of reading, so I've got a good firm handle on the mechanics and the nomenclature, the terminology used in the game. I can explain it pretty well. What I do not have is any actual gameplay experience. I've done like a test of the first turn or so, just to get a feel for the game flow, but that's it. So tonight, now, is my testing period. This is me actually playing it to get a feel for how the game flow works, get some of the turn processing kind of more secondhand memorized, and try to figure out some of the strategies and efficiencies. So the game itself is a Euro-style engine builder, deck builder, resource optimization game. So if that's your cup of tea, if you enjoy that kind of gameplay in your board games, you might want to take a look. It's a very big game in a very tiny package. It releases and packages in retail in a standard old school VHS cassette box. You know, for those 3%ers out there that are, you know, grandfatherly age, just elderly like myself that can remember those days, VHS tapes, going to Blockbuster and picking up your movies. The whole game packages inside one of those boxes. But it seems to have quite a bit of interesting gameplay. So, I shall explain the game as I'm playing. I'm not going to front load all the instructions right at the beginning, so, you know, don't worry. I'll just start doing things and explaining as we go. I do need to give a general overview of what you're seeing in front of you and kind of the how the game works from a high level. So the idea is that we are going to take over the leadership of a new empire. That empire consists of the capital. There is the capital. The card right in the center of this 5x5 tableau of locations. We'll go ahead and zoom into the map area here. This is essentially our map. Our leader pawn starts right here on the capital, and then we have all of these territories. The territories are the same every single game, but the deck is randomized. You shuffle them all up and you deal them all out in this 5x5 grid around the capital, and that makes it variable in some ways. There are trading locations where you can set up trade agreements to get resources. There are one-off bonuses and various things like that. Now, in addition to that, we have these little counters here. These are enemy counters that we're going to be fighting against. Enemies of the Empire. We are not allowed to use the territories underneath those until we actually get rid of those enemy counters. We have some edicts off to the left. The game is won by completing the tasks listed on these edict cards and achieving a glory point goal that is, for this difficulty and this length of game that I've set up, I have to combine the green numbers, the 2 green numbers that are the highest out of my 3 cards. That'd be 25 and 18. So we need to do all the things that these say and have 43 victory points or glory points before the time runs out. That is our goal. So we're going to be moving our Emperor pawn around the board, setting up trade agreements, fighting these enemies, establishing developments, as well as activating influence on them for various abilities and effects, generating resources, you know, stuff. There are 6 different leaders in the game. I have chosen for the starting leader I'm going to play, Augustus. All the leaders have 5 different tracks shown with numbers, horizontal numbers there. We've got culture, military, technology, industry, and population. Those names are one of the things I've noticed have changed from here to the retail release. They call them different things now. I have no idea why. All of them except population, the top 4 all got changed. And it's a tracking chart, goes from left to right. We start at 0 on the left, and our token moves to the right as we gain abilities in those categories. And then there's little symbols below them that give us things. So the purple hands icon is trade agreements. The orange icon with the figurehead and the laurel crown is influence tokens. Upper right, military gives us a higher card in our hand count, our total hand size. And then in industry, the little foot icons, those are the movement speed of our leader when we spend a card for movement. Every leader, in addition to that section, all of those numbers are different for each leader. So they're asymmetrical. They have a tendency towards an ability in some areas and less ability in others. They also all have different attribute bonuses in the bottom left. We have Agrippa, City of Marble, and Foreign Trade. Those are special things, some good, some bad, that are particular to Augustus. In addition to that, there are 2 special cards for each of the emperors. They're unique to that particular emperor, and they get added into our draw deck for whoever you set up to play. The other leaders are Livia, Marcus, Trajan, Hadrian, and Fulvia. So quite a bit of variety there. Their asynchronous attributes, abilities, and cards make for fairly different gameplay. In my estimation, like I said, I haven't actually played through a full game yet, but I do have a good knowledge of the mechanics, and I can understand all the differences that the abilities and such infer upon those leaders. So, yeah, if I enjoy the gameplay and you guys enjoy watching me play the game, then I'd be happy to play other leaders just to see how they work. All right, so that's most of the board. So we have our map, our edicts, our leaderboard. This is our stockpile board where we track our gold, iron, stone, food, and water. And I'll explain those in a second. Don't really need to know about any of that. Up at the top of the board, which is this area, we have a marketplace. First I'll say there's the turn and round tracker. That's all this is. It tracks the turns that go by and the rounds that go by. We're going to be playing a full 4-round game on normal difficulty is what I've set this up for. And then we have the marketplace. On top, we have attribute cards. These we purchase and add into our draw deck. They're more powerful versions and additional versions of cards that we can add to our deck, basically. That's the deck building portion. They come out of this pile. Then we have development cards. These are developments we're going to place on top of the territories, and they give us various abilities, powers, resource generation, and so on. And they come out of one of 2 possible decks. There's a Tier 1 and a Tier 2. All of these cards that we draw initially are from the Tier 1 deck. We won't get access to Tier 2 until either turn 3, or if we successfully build 5 developments of any kind on our territory board, that also unlocks access to the Tier 2. And then anytime we refill this, we can choose which one we want to refill with. Alright, the last thing to talk about. I mentioned earlier the way to win, we have to complete the goals and the glory point objective. The way we lose is twofold. Either we don't complete the goals and the victory point objective or glory point objective, or if either of these 2 decks runs out of cards, if we draw the last card in either deck, the empire collapses in ruin. Either financial ruin because of the overwhelming amount of outstanding loans, or general strife among the population due to our poor leadership. So, last card drawn from either, we lose. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, we just trundle through the turns and the rounds attempting to get our goal conditions and avoid getting the last card drawn from there. It's a resource builder in that it's critically important that we buy, build, and then utilize these development cards to generate resources, in addition to setting up trade agreements and so on. Initially, we have no resources. We start with 0 of any of them. We start with 3 gold, and that's it. So we're going to be forced to take out some loans initially that hopefully we'll pay back because they have a negative scoring condition for each loan we have outstanding, assuming we make it to the end of the turn timers. But otherwise, yeah, we got to do things. Let me talk real briefly about the turn sequencing, and then we'll get started. I want to try to keep this intro stuff short. So there's really 3 sections to the turn, and there's turns and rounds. We're going to have multiple turns within a round, and then we have 4 total rounds. The number of turns is going to vary slightly as time progresses. They get a little longer. It's going to be roughly 6 to 8 turns per round. And then we've got a full 4-round game for this one. So in a turn, we have an active projects phase. And active projects just means when I buy one of these development cards, I can choose to either put it below my board, in my draw hand, or in my discard pile. And there's reasons I might do each of those things that I'm not going to get into now. But there's 3 possible places. If I choose to put it below my board, I'm basically saving it there, keeping it out of my draw hand so it doesn't limit how many cards I get to redraw up into my hand. So I'm saving myself a hand slot that I can draw a new card into. But if I have that card still here at the beginning of the turn during this active projects phase, I have to pay for it to hold it, basically. And it's either a gold or a strife card if I don't have a gold. The only other thing you do in that first phase is you collect from any trade agreements that you've set up on the board. If you have a trade agreement in play, it pays out whatever resource it's for. And that's it in that first section. We just pay if we have any cards down here, and we collect our resources from trades. Next up, we have the action phase. Very simple phrase, action phase. It comprises an amazingly complex, analysis paralysis inducing medley of possibilities. And you'll understand why in a minute. Oh man. Oh man. So much stuff can happen in the action phase. That's where 99% of the gameplay is going to be. That phase is where we can play cards from our hand. We can buy cards from the marketplace. We can set up trade agreements. We can move our leader pawn around. We can fight enemies. It's just pretty much everything gets done in the action phase. After all of that is done, we've taken all the actions we want or can take, and we say we're done with that phase. It moves into the cleanup phase, and it's just a maintenance phase. Goes pretty quick. We pull any used influence tokens off the map. We discard our played cards. We replenish any empty spots up in the marketplace. We draw up to our hand size. So we draw cards until we reach our maximum hand size per our military trait. And then we advance the turn counter. We advance the turn cube forward 1 space. The way the round ends is if the turn marker, this cube, reaches the number of the current round on this track. So at the beginning, we'll have first turn, then it's going to advance when we end our first turn to here. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns, basically. We're going to hit the number 1. This moves back to the beginning. We go to round 2 on this track, and then we just start over and go again, and it gets 1 turn longer. And that goes out until all 4 turns are done, or all 4 rounds are done, I mean. So that's the standard way that a round ends. But there is a second way, and that is if we run out of cards in our draw deck. During the cleanup phase is when we draw cards up into our hand. If we run out of cards, that signals that the next round will be the last, or the next turn, I'm sorry. The next turn will be the last for the round. It signals the end of the round. You get 1 final turn to use up any cards you have remaining in your hand, and then the round sequences. So it is possible if you have a short deck size, if you don't expand your deck, but you have a large hand size that you can play every turn, you could theoretically burn through the entire deck faster than the turn marker would reach its normal end of round location. So something that we have to be considerate of. So that's the 2 ways that time progresses, the win-loss conditions, the various elements you're looking at, leaders, resources, hands, cards, etc. We'll get into the details of the cards and the card play as we move along. All right, I think that's it for the intro stuff. I managed it in 15 minutes. It's still a little longer. I was hoping to keep it under 10. I didn't manage it. Okay. So now we're going to start playing. So this is where I'm going to start slowing down quite a bit. Is while I have technical knowledge of how the thing works, I don't have practical experience with actually playing it well. And there's an amazing amount of stuff you have to analyze in order to be a hyper-efficient engine optimizer. So you'll start to appreciate why here in just a minute. So let's go ahead and say start. We have no active projects phase because we have no agreements to set up yet, and we have no trade agreements out there. So we skip the active projects phase. We go to the action phase, just right off the bat. So now I do need to zoom in a bit and take a look at a few things. So I mentioned that we have no resources to start, a limited amount of gold. We have trade tokens, and we're limited in how many by our trade value here. We start on the left. It gives us 3 trade tokens. These are movement tokens, and the way movement works is I just discard a card and say I'm going to use it for movement, and then depending on whatever the movement value here is for my leader, I get that many movement points. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong thing. This is the movement section, the entry section. So we get 2 points of movement per card that I say I discard for the movement. And then we just take one of these, we flip it to the appropriate number, and we would put it on top. So I would say I'm going to use that for movement, and I would put that here to say I've got 2 points of movement. And as I use the movement, I can rotate it to show that I've used it up. I can discard multiple cards if I want to use for movement. It's my choice. All right, so things we need to consider. We have no resources, no income, a small amount of money, and the goal is to develop a self-sustaining industry. We need to be generating resources so that we can pay for developments and build developments and activate their abilities that might require resources. So we got to both generate resources, generate something called attribute points through our card play, purchase things from the market, which costs gold, and that can either be cards that we can play from our hand to help us, or it can be developments we play on the board. Let's look at the board real quick. So, structure of a space. So here's the capital. The capital's kind of a good example. There are tags on the bottom left, the asterisk, tax, borrow, and festival. The symbol, the asterisk symbol, denotes specifically that if you spend an influence token here, meaning if my leader puts one of his limited influence tokens on the capital and I then flip it over to spend it, I can take the appropriate action. There's about 4 different things you can do. Putting an influence token down is when influenced. When spent is when you flip it over, which is the asterisk symbol. There's 3 or 4. I'll explain them as we come upon them. But depending on what symbol it is, it triggers the ability at various times. So the very first thing I'm going to do in this gameplay example is I'm going to do the tax action. So in order to do that, I need to come out and grab one of my influence tokens, of which we're limited to 3. We start with 3 as per that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to drop an influence token on this. There's no effects for me just placing the token. Some other things on the development side would trigger just by putting the token down. Then I'm going to flip it to spend it. I'm going to do the borrow action. Borrow action lets me gain, here we go, gain up to 2 loan cards, and we gain 2 gold for each one that we take. So we're going to grab a loan card, and it goes into our discard pile over here, and a loan card. I'm going to take out 2 loans. That's going to get me 4 gold, so jump up to 7. And the loan cards and the strife cards, when they get pulled, go into your discard pile, and then we end up shuffling the discard pile into a new draw pile in between the rounds. So you're going to end up with these types of cards as dead cards in your 5-card hand max draw, or higher if you level up certain attribute. So the more you have, the higher the chance that you're going to be drawing dead cards that you can't do anything with, other than try to pay them off. So a loan, I can pay 3 gold to return the card back to the pile I drew it from. If I still hold it at the end of the game, I lose scoring points. So that's how you get loans back out of your hand. And strife, you have to do culture, spend 4 culture to return this card. There are other ways to get rid of them, and we might take advantage of that later, but I'm not going to explain the mechanics for that part. But yeah, so we took out 2 loans out of 10. I should mention there are exactly 10 cards in the loan pile and 10 cards in the strife pile. They're all exactly identical to in the pile. No difference there. So 2 out of our 8 loans have been taken. We're going to use that gold for a few different things. Primarily, it's used to purchase cards up on the marketplace. The only way to purchase attribute cards and development cards. It's also used as a wild card for another feature, which I'll show here in just a minute. But going back to this, so we have now done the borrowing action, and we have spent our influence token. And I can't put another one on this space for an influence token. So we're done with that portion. Next thing we're going to do is set up a trade. So I want to generate resources. And if we look at some of the board here, right here, we have a territory that has a trade option. To the left, it says gain 2 water now, and in this agreement. And then it has 3 with a sextant symbol. That indicates we need to spend 3, what is it, technology on this one? Yeah, 3 technology. Whoa. 3 technology. That's got the sextant symbol. So if we can generate and then spend 3 technology, we'll be able to set up this trade agreement for gaining 2 water. That's a one-time 2 water gain, and then the agreement ends. To the right side, we can gain 1 water per turn for 6 of the technology. Now, that per turn, the very important thing to note is it's per turn for the current round and the following round. So we're on the very first turn of this round. That means we're going to gain 6 water minimum. Well, assuming I don't blow through my cards too fast, but 6 water this round and 7 water next round. So a total of 13 water just doled out 1 per turn. So it always lasts for the round you're in and then the next round. Super important. So you can kind of see the distinction. It's more expensive, but it's got much, much larger, longer term benefits. So that's the one we're going to try to get. So I want that per turn water trade agreement. Now, there's agreements of the same type for food, for stone, for iron, but there are differences sometimes also. Like notice this one over here. Exact same one as the one we looked at first, but it's 4 and 7 instead of 3 and 6. So this one is slightly more efficient. So we're going to try to do that one. And then in later turns, I'm going to try to set up one for food and I think iron. I think we have a way, from my examination of the cards before we started, I think we have a way to generate stone. But I want to get as many of those resources developing as I can to help us pay for things. So that's going to be my initial target. So to set up the water trade, I need 6 research or technology. So to do that, we need to play some cards. So let's take a look at our cards real quick. And we'll look at the Senator first. Almost all of the attribute cards are divided into a top section and a bottom section. There's actually 3 important parts of this type of a card. The word Senator kind of has a banner behind it, and it's gray. That indicates that this is considered a stone card. If I want to influence this card or use the bottom section, I need to spend a stone resource in order to use the bottom section. So when we do that, we have the option of substituting gold in place of the appropriate material. And that's the place where gold can be a wild card. It can replace a resource for this and this only purpose, just to be able to use the lower section of the card. So on this card, the top section, which I can play the card and take the top ability for free, it would generate 2 technology points for me to use this round. And I could cycle a card from a marketplace. Cycling just means I could discard a card from the marketplace back to the bottom of its appropriate deck, which would free up a space, which would then have that card be replaced essentially at the end of the round during cleanup. So if there were cards up there that I know I would never use, and I just want to churn those decks and get through the good stuff that I need, then I would have it cycle the card. You can either do it through an effect like this, or you can pay industry points to cycle cards also. But I can take the top ability for free, or I can pay to have the boosted ability, which is the lower section. So we're going to do the boosted ability section, the lower section. So normally I would spend whatever the type of resource this card requires, which is stone. I'm instead going to pay a gold. And it's going to allow me to play cards face down this turn and provide 2 of any standard attribute instead of the normal 1 that I could earn. So we're going to go ahead and spend 1 gold, drop us down to 6. That pays for this card's effect. I'm going to go ahead and discard it. I'll actually play it over here for the I discard it. Just to remind myself. And now from here forward, I can discard the cards in my hand and get 2 of any resource or any attribute type that I want. And attributes are different than resources. Attributes are the symbols next to the categories there. So culture has the harp or the lyre. Technology has the sextant. Military has the helmet. And industry has the scales. So we generate those in order to build things and to do effects during card play. All right, so we've got that ability now, and the goal for the research is 6 technology. So I'm going to discard 3 cards effectively to give me the technology that I need. So let's look at our cards here. So we have a pottery card. It does give technology, but not enough, or I mean culture, but I'm not going to be doing culture this round. Mercuralia does a little bit of industry and has a different kind of an effect on the bottom. Show of Force is a military card. We don't need that this turn. And Orator, is that the last one? Yeah, Orator. Again, mostly culture, or we can draw some cards. So I don't need those for their normal effects this round. And this is where things get complicated. Seems simple. I got 5 cards. They got a couple abilities. No big deal, right? Here's where it gets complicated. You only get so many cards per round. You got a lot of stuff you got to get done. And cards are used to do a bunch of different things. You have to know there's like 4 different ways to use cards. A and B, I've already talked about. Top and bottom. You can either do the top section or the bottom section. That's 1 and 2 ways to use the card. A third way I've mentioned, and that's to play a card, ignore everything about it, and just play it for movement points for your leader. That's way number 3. Now, way number 4 is to flip the card over and just use it to generate 1 of any of the attribute types you want. So there's those 4 different ways to use a basic card. You got to consider that you're also needing to keep track of resources that they generate and how to best use the different combinations that are possible through all the card effects, combined with you have to examine all the different positions on the board to see which one's going to be the most efficient, like the difference between that water and that water. That 1 point difference is huge. Plus, just tons of other things. This is where the analysis paralysis kicks in for the engine optimization puzzle. There's so many things that you need to be aware of as possibilities. So many things you need to double check. You need to keep track of a bunch of numbers. You need to count out how many resources you might be able to generate, see if you can actually meet the goals that you need for whatever. It gets, with familiarity, I'm sure it gets easier, but from a layman standpoint, it can be pretty rough. I'm just going to bulldog through and not spend a whole bunch of time analyzing if I can, just to see how things work and how things progress. My goal isn't so much to win this game. It'd be nice if I did, and I'll try. But I mostly just want to get practice and progress and figure out some optimizations and get a feel for the pacing. So we now have an opportunity. I'm just going to discard. You're going away for 2 points of tech. You're going away for 2 points of tech. And you're going away for 2 points of tech. All right, we have 6 points of tech. That is enough. We have generated 6 technology points, so I can now set up this trade agreement for the long-term agreement. So I'm going to grab a trade agreement token, drop it right there to denote we've got this long-range agreement. Activated, and I get to immediately generate 1 unit of water. Yay us, we have water. Alright. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to buy, and I haven't looked at these on camera yet, but I had checked everything out before I went live. We have these 2 ones up here I'm interested in. Now, it shows the cost. The cost gets more expensive the further to the left you go. Same on the bottom. It goes from 2 up to 4 for these. 1 to 3 up here. And then this in the middle is the cost in industry points if I wanted to cycle the card above or the card below. You pay the cost. You can cycle one or the other, not both. By cycling, just flip it over and put it at the bottom of the appropriate deck, wherever it came from. And I will note this is a misprint. This should be a 2. It should be 1, 1, 2, 2, 3. So we'll treat this as a 2. But I'm interested in these 2 cards. These are the cards that are going to go back into my hand. Initially, they go in my discard pile. Or no, they go on top of my deck when you buy them. So they'll come up into my hand next turn. First up is a water wheel. It generates research, either 3 or 6, depending on if I boost it. And it pays 1 water to increase this to a 5, or pay a water to increase it to an 8. So it's a huge research generator. I can pay that 1 water I just generated and play this card and have 8 research towards building the next trade agreement or whatever other use I might put it towards. So I want that. And Longship, another research generator for the base resource. And note these are green, so I would have to normally use a food to use the boosted attribute on the bottom, and then pay a water to be able to generate the 8 instead of the 6. So it's kind of weird in that way. It's a green card, so to use the bottom section, first got to pay a food. Then to get the additional bonus from the bottom, I have to pay a water. So this one, a little different. This lets me take loans and pay loans with higher payout values. And it's crazy good because if you look at the boosted section in particular, you may gain a loan, receiving 5 gold instead of the normal 2, or you may pay off a loan in your hand or discard pile for 2 gold. So I can either gain a new one and get 3 more gold than normal, or I can pay off an existing one in my hand at the original low rate that I was getting them for. So it's a hugely beneficial one that I hope I'll be able to take advantage of. Now, because of the way things work, I'll only get to play this once every round. Not every turn, every round. So I'm only going to get 3 to 4 uses out of that bottom section at most. So I got to make sure I really, really pay it off. But we're going to buy both. So we're going to spend 3 gold to grab both of those cards. I'm going to flip them over and put them on top of my draw deck. So we'll get those in our hand at the beginning of the next turn. Before I do anything else, I should mention, let's look at the abilities for Augustus. If you look in the bottom left, now that you got some idea of what's going on, Agrippa is -1 defense value if I go conquering those enemy tokens that are on the board. When we flip those over, it'll show a defense value and an offense or attack value. That line means that they have 1 less defense because we have a good leader for the fight. So it's easier for us to damage them. And in addition, he also provides us with -1 attribute cost for building developments. So we have to go buy a development, but when we go to build it, we can do it for 1 less attribute cost. City of Marble is our negative for this leader. It costs +1 gold to buy developments. So we have to pay more because Augustus insists everything is in marble. So it's an expensive material. So we have to pay more to buy the developments. And then finally, foreign trade is kind of our major power. You do not need your leader pawn on a territory to make a trade agreement there. So that's the only reason I was able to set this trade agreement up, is because Augustus has the special ability that I don't need to have my pawn there to do it. All the other leaders, they've got to move their leader to the place they want to set up the trade agreement. But I can set a trade agreement up here, just automatically without having to move around. So that's his fairly major power. All right, just wanted to mention that so you guys can keep me honest when I later forget to subtract an attribute cost for development or to pay an extra gold. Just yell at me in chat when I inevitably forget. Okay, so next up, we bought some attribute cards. We have got our trade set up. Next up, I also want to buy this attribute card. So we're going to buy the Fountain. There's a lot going on here to kind of explain, but I'm buying it mostly for the bottom 2 abilities. But in addition to that, in the upper right in blue, it shows what the cost is in attributes to build it after I buy it. So it's 3. For me, it would be 2 because of my special ability, culture points. So 2 culture points because I have the -1 savings for building it. Below that is the harp symbol. That means that I'm going to increase my leader's culture track 1 position. Upper left is the glory points we're going to get for building this. So it's going to give us 2 glory or victory points. And then the bottom section are the abilities that we gain. The Muse ability has that asterisk, meaning we have to put an influence token on here and spend it, flip it over. If we do that, we can take an advantage of -2 to the cost of buying an advanced attribute. Means we can buy anything on the advanced attribute board for a single gold. Then the lower one, Inspire, that symbol with the laurel wreath on the head indicates that while an influence token is just on the fountain, unspent, meaning I drop the token and I leave it alone, as long as that's true, once per turn, I can pay a single water and gain 3 stone. So that's kind of how I'm going to substitute in generating stone via trade agreements. I'm going to use this every once in a while to give myself whatever stone I feel I need. All right, so we're going to buy that. It does cost me 1 extra, so we're going to pay 3 to buy that. And I'm going to put this in my hand or down below. I put this in my hand. I don't want to spend the extra gold while gold is so tight until we can get the longboat out and get another loan. All right, so we're going to go from 6 down to 3. And we have purchased our fountain. And then we're going to go ahead and get this built. So remember I played the Senator. So now I'm going to play this last card out of my hand for attribute generation. I'm going to use it to generate the 2 points I need to build this. We're going to build it right below our current location. Good enough. Lock it in. So the rules for building, you have to pay the cost, and then you can place it, but it has to be orthogonally adjacent to the capital or to an existing development. So I can't just say, all right, I want to put it over here. It has to be directly adjacent and kind of build outward from there. You also cannot build on anything covered by an enemy token. You can't access any of the abilities or build while there's an enemy there. We have to go conquer them, get rid of them, and then we can do things. All right, so our fountain is in play. That means a few things need to happen. I spent my only 2 culture points to do that. We're going to raise the track on our leaderboard on culture up to 1, which then gives us another trade token. So we'll go grab a trade token, add it to our pile. So we can have 4 total trade agreements now. We've got 1 in place currently. Next, we're going to grab our 2 victory points. So we'll move ourselves up 2 points. And that's it for the ongoing stuff. So we paid, we built, we got our movement on our track, we got our glory points. All right. And we're out of cards. I don't want to manually take out any more loans because we've got that opportunity coming up at the boat to get a better value. We're at 3 gold and 1 water when we end the turn here. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and voluntarily end the action phase. Moving to cleanup phase. First thing we do is we resolve leader resting actions. All that means is we look at our leader token where he's at, and if you see one of these symbols, the little boot symbol next to skill sharing, if there's a boot symbol where your leader token's at, you can take whatever action it says on the location. So in this case, if we were standing over here, at this point we would be able to gain 1 water for the leader resting action on that position. We don't have any of that here at the capital, so we skip that. Now we remove any influence tokens that are spent, put them back in our pile. We discard any played cards, so these go into our discard pile. Replenish the market, which we do need to do, so we're going to have these cards. Shove them over like so. And refill. Alright, we've added Hot Oil and the Catapult, both combat-focused cards. And then down below, what you're going to draw from the Tier 1 deck. Down below, we have added a farm. Alright. Alright, I'll go through these and I'll explain which one I'm looking at next for my strategy here in a bit. Now that we've got that done, we draw up to our hand limit. So I have no cards in my hands. So we're going to draw 5 new cards because that's currently our hand limit based on our military value. All right, so we knew we were going to get the long ship. We knew we were going to get the long ship and the water wheel because those get put on the top of the draw pile. Then we also got Probatus. Discard a card to gain 2 resources of that card's color, or you can boost it for the 4 military value. Civil War. This I have to deal with right now. So I mentioned earlier that each leader has 2 unique cards that come with them. This is one of our unique cards. So this is the bad card for us. You must play this card this turn. Discard a red card. If you do not have any red cards, discard 2 other cards instead. Or I can spend a food, which is the color of the card, the banner behind Civil War. I can spend a food to take the bottom action instead, which lets me ignore the basic action of this card, but I must immediately take out a loan. So I'm paying somebody off. we're throwing gold to somebody to prevent a civil war from happening. But I got to take one or the other. I got to deal with this card. And then finally, we also got Show of Force, another military card. I'm not planning on doing any military action during this first round, so this first set of 6 or 7 turns, really. So the military cards I'm not too concerned with, but I might need them to generate resources or some other effect. So I got to decide if I want to do the basic action, take a loan out. That would mean I would take 2 loans this turn because I want to use the long ship as well. We'd get 7. No, the long ship only modifies its own. It's got its own special ability. It won't modify this result. All right. So that's our list of cards. Let's... Well, we got to do the start turn stuff before I start overtaxing my brain trying to figure out what I want to do when. Now that we've got that done, we've got our new hand, we have to advance the turn cubes. So, turn complete, moving to the second turn. All right, now we're ready to go. So first thing we do is that active projects phase. I don't have any projects I put below my boards, but we do have an active trade agreement. That trade agreement is for water, so we generate another water right now. We're up to 2. Now we're done with that phase. We're in the action phase. So now I do need to figure things out. I think it's all about getting an initial burst of gold to help power you through getting the very beginning of your empire started. I'll tell you, the hard part that I'm still trying to figure out are the hopefully multiple ways, but if there are multiple, they're kind of obscure, but hopefully multiple ways that you can generate gold. Gold is the tough one, because we can get resources from trade agreements. I know it's not too tough to get resource generation off of various developments, but converting or earning gold seems to be tough. So initially, we're going to be taking loans out that we're going to either have to pay off or we're going to have to deal with dead cards in our deck. But I got to find some way early to generate gold. And I'm going to try to do it, I think, with resource exchange. I haven't mentioned that yet, but one of the actions we can do during the action phase is an action called exchange. And that lets you do a 4-to-1 conversion of resource to gold. And it has to be 4 of the same resource. 4 iron, 4 stone, 4 wood, 4 water. You just lower your amount of one of the attributes or resources by 4, and you increase your gold by 1. And a special note, that exchange is not considered gaining gold. Gaining gold is kind of a trigger for other game effects that you might encounter. It doesn't trigger those effects. It's an exchange of resource for gold. But that's one way to generate it. I know another way, I think farms are a strategy that I've seen mentioned in some of the threads that I've read and such. Farms have a money-generating mechanism, especially if you can get multiple of them. The more you have adjacent to each other, the more money they can earn. But I don't know beyond that, really. But that's going to be the hard part, is figuring out a steady way of earning gold. Because we're going to initially seem to have a lot, but it's going to disappear amazingly fast as we have to spend money for the cards we need to get our engine going. So it's getting the engine started. That's the hard part. All right. So now we're in the action phase. The order I do things in is somewhat important. I think I'm going to pay off the Civil War first. So we're going to substitute gold for the food that we don't have yet. So that'll drop us down to 2. Do the substitution. Then we're going to do the boosted action on that card. And take out a loan. Loan goes into the discard pile. Gold goes up to 4. That card is now dealt with. Alright. Then I think I'm going to do... Yeah, we're gonna boost the water wheel. So that takes food to boost it. Use the bottom section. So again, we have to substitute temporarily. And then I'm going to pay the 1 water to get the additional output. Takes us to 8 research total. So we have 8 research. And I want to set up food. That food. So 6 of our research is going to go into... Need the extra? I don't think I need the extra. I take back my 1 water. I think I just need the 6. I need the 8. I don't think there's anything else I'll use tech for this phase. Alright, so we generated 6. Let's go ahead and set up that trade agreement. Again, we don't have to be in that spot to do it with our special leader ability. And we immediately gain 1 food. Okay, trade agreement complete. Then I'm going to boost the long ship card to use the bottom ability. We're going to take out yet another loan. We're going to take out the loan and gain 5 instead of 2 gold. So to boost it, because it's a green card, we're going to spend that food we just generated. Do I need that? This is going to generate 5. Did I need to boost that? Ugh. This is what I mean by the analysis paralysis. I got to get to a total of 6. I'm going to boost this for the loan. I'm going to make 5 anyway. So I don't think I needed to boost this. It still is going to give me 8. One gold back. Don't need to boost this. That would have given me 3, 5, 8. Would have been plenty. Now I'm confused because then I wouldn't have had the food. Boost the long ship. Yeah, the order's wrong. Ah, crap. Now I've got myself worked into a... I've screwed up. How do I get it fixed properly? I'm gonna settle for that. I know I've screwed it up. I'm plus or minus a resource somewhere. All right, another loan. This time we're gaining 5, takes us to 8. I think I did need it because there's another trade I want to do. Yeah, that's what I was planning. I was going to set up 2 trades, so I needed to get to 12 total resources, 12 total technology. So it was going to be 6 and... Or no, 8 and 5 is 13. Yeah, that's the plan. Alright, let's assume I was supposed to have done the water originally. I think I'm pretty close to where I was now that I've remembered what I wanted to do. Alright, so yeah. So it was 8 from that, the boosted version. 5 from that, the boosted version is 13 total. And that lets me also set up this iron. So we needed 7 and 6, so we needed 13 exactly. Alright. That gets us 1 point of iron. Okay. Lost my mind for a second there. I think I'm still off by 1 position on something, but we're close enough. Good. Get moving again. So what else? I don't plan on using these. I can keep them in my hand to do other things like move. Actually, I should move. I should move and use the attribute cost save, or do the conversion of water. I can do immediately. All right, let's use. It doesn't really matter. We'll use this one. There, I guess. I'm going to use it for movement, so I'm ignoring the game effects. Set it to 2 movement points. And I'm going to move 1 to that position. I drop an influence token. And this Inspire triggers just by having an unspent influence token on the card. Lets me then pay 1 water to gain 3. I'm going to pay a water. Still have a movement point left. And I think I'm going to use the token now for the Muse option. Make it cheaper to buy things from the advanced attribute list. So, don't want the military cards, but Wine Merchant I think looks interesting. It's industry this time. Either 3 industry, discard a green card for 5 industry instead, or 6 industry, discard a green card for 8 industry instead. So that industry is going to be useful for getting certain things built. We need tech to get research developments. We need industry mostly to build developments. Industry and culture are both used primarily for that. And then military for combat stuff. So I need some industry generation. My deck, some improvements. So I think that'll be really good for that. So because we have spent the point here, we can spend, we can buy that for just 1 gold instead of the 2 that's listed. Goes on top of our deck. 7. And then I also want... Alright, let's look through these now. So there's the farm that I talked about. And the cash generator option is the bottom one, where you spend an influence token to sell crops. Gain gold equal to the number of farms adjacent to this one with a ready influence token. So you build farms near each other, and then you drop influence tokens, and you can generate gold each time that you spend the influence token for that ability. So that's one way of doing it, and I think there's ways of increasing the yield or output. Then there's the Armentarium. This, I should mention one other thing. Notice in the upper left, the 3 with the victory point, the green laurel leaves. Just below that is an iron symbol. That's another way the card can be used. If you send your leader here and put an influence token on the card, when you spend the token, flip it over, you can either trigger one of the bottom options if it's triggered via that method, or you can generate the resource listed. So I could generate iron by spending an influence token. Same thing with the farm, generates food. The insula generates water in that method. It gives you the population point when you build it. It takes 5 industry to build, 4 for me because my ability. And the middle options, running water, pay 1 stone to gain 3 water. It occurred to me that this would be a good way to go back and forth. Pay a water to get 3 stone, then pay 1 stone to get 3 water. They use slightly different activation methods that are a little tricky. But I think I can manage that and get water and stone kind of compounding each other. Then below that is mingle. As long as I have an influence token that's unspent, once a turn, I can ready an adjacent influence token in an adjacent development. And that could be really powerful. And that's just having the influence token here. It doesn't even use it. It's just while it's influenced, I can use that mingle ability to re-trigger an influence benefit on another card that's adjacent, doubling up my bonuses or my rewards. And then finally, I could spend an influence token to trash a strife card. Trashing a strife card basically removes it from the game. But if you trash an existing strife card from your hand, you also have to pull one from the strife deck, which makes less available in that deck. So it shortens your safety net before game end if you run out of those cards. So you got to be careful doing that. But it gets them out of your deck if it's like near the end of the game and you know the timing won't mess with you to prevent them from lowering your score. But I like the insula. I think that's what we're going to go for. And then we have another fountain. This is a different type. Generates 3 research, and it increases the technology level on your leaderboard. So it has a while influenced of if adjacent to a development that produces water, up to twice per turn, you can pay 1 food to gain 3 water. So I'm hopeful I might be able to get this up adjacent also, where I can do like the double trigger, and then generate like 6 or 8 water in a single turn. And then be able to sell them in chunks of 4 to convert to gold, if I can manage to get all this set up. And then also we can spend the influence to do a breakthrough to discard a card to gain 2 resources of its color. All right, and finally the bridge generates 2 iron. That's pretty good. Maintenance, you must pay 1 stone. And this happens when you, the lightning bolt symbol is when you drop an influence token on the card. Even before you use it, before you flip it, or any other effects. You drop an influence token, you immediately trigger the maintenance requirement. And then while it's influenced after you've paid that maintenance, once a turn when your leader is on this development, you may play a card for movement at +3 of your normal movement value. So it gives them a big speed boost. All right, with that list in mind, I think I'm going to go ahead and buy the insula. So it costs 3 + 1 is 4. 4! Can't use this to get that, so got to spend the big bucks. That's where, oh yeah, it goes away. That's where the money disappears. 4. Ouch. All right, and in order to play this, it's going to cost 5, the upper right number in gray. It's going to cost 5 industry, only 4 for me because I have that savings. But I need to generate 4 industry for it. And we picked up that industry card that hopefully will allow us, when we draw it next turn or at the end of this turn, to get that industry insula in play right here. Oh, important thing, really important thing I forgot to mention. I talked briefly about these edict cards and that we have to finish tasks, but I never actually looked at the tasks. So here's our 3 edicts. First up, we have the Edict of the Roman Wall. Develop all territories along the southern border. So that means all 5 of these southern territories we have to have developments on. So we got to put developments on all 5 of these. And we have to build the Roman wall. And this means we have to spend 3 stone for the first stage, 4 stone for the second stage, and 10 stone for the final stage. And you can only complete 1 stage per turn. Next, we have Glory to Rome. Build at least 5 level 2 developments. So those are the level 2 developments here in this deck that don't unlock until round 3, or once we have 5 developments anywhere on our map. It'll also unlock second level. And I haven't actually even looked at those cards. I have no idea how hard they are to build or what kind of benefits they have. I'm assuming they're powerful, but expensive. And then finally, Defend Rome. Defeat at least 5 enemies. And there's a little marker chart for us to mark off as we defeat them. Then, after you've done that, defeat the Barbarian Army. Means we have to have a fight with a Barbarian Army that has a defensive strength of 10 and an attack value of 6. I'll talk about combat in a bit. It's pretty simple, but I don't want to get into it right now. All right, so those are the things. That's one of the reasons why I'm coming south. And also why I picked the locations I did for my trade agreements. Because if you build on top of a trade agreement, it disappears. And the trade agreement stays in place even after the time limit on the trade agreement ends until you build on it, and then you get to recover the trade token to use elsewhere if you'd like. Okay, where was I? I was at the end of the turn, I think. I don't have the resources to build this. Don't have a reason to play that. We're going to get the 1 card we bought and 2 additional cards. We've got 4 loans now. 4 loans, outstanding. Yeah, I think I'm done. All right, give me a second to hydrate, and we'll process the turn. Okay. I think I'm going to declare my turn done, even though I've got movement left. I can only do anything on developed spaces other than the possibility, if I could get to like here, I could gain a food from the resting leader bonus, but I'm not in range unless I use that card for movement. But I don't want to. I want to stay in this area and make sure I can re-influence up here if I need. So, yeah, we're going to be done. Action phase complete. No resting leader actions. Remove spent influence tokens. Discard played cards, so our movement goes away. Cards get stacked up and go to the discard pile. Replenish the market. What do we get this time? We got Domus. 8 industry. Wow. 2 population growth. That's a big residence. Generate stone. 3 victory points. Ongoing effect. Domus must be adjacent to a development that produces food or water. And while in effect, study. Pay 1 iron to gain 2 stone. Alright. Still think I'm going to try to get the bridge fountains going. And we'll take a look. All right. New card comes out is banking. Place this card in your projects area and pay 1 gold. While it is there, if your leader is on a space that costs industry, once a turn you may spend 2 industry to gain 1 gold. Discard this card at round end. What? Pay this card in your projects area. Okay, so below your leaderboard, pay a gold. While it's there, if your leader's on a space that costs industry, once a turn, you may spend 2 industry to gain a gold. I don't understand that. Pay a gold to get a gold? If your leader's on an industry space and if you spend industry? Boosted action, return 1 loan from your hand or discard pile for 1 gold, or pay 1 gold for 8 industry. I like that effect. That's a really good. I don't understand the top one. Oh, round end. Oh, I always forget. Round and turn are different. Round end means we could have 5 turns to take advantage of the banking. So you pay the initial gold when you place it, and then every turn after that until the end of the current round, you could spend industry to gain gold. Got it. Now I understand. Now, turn and round are not the same. So these are turns. These are rounds. We have 6 to 8 turns within a round. So we would have, if we did it this turn, we could use it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So you could gain 4 gold, net 4 gold gain before the round would end. So then the expensive end of the board to purchase, and it's got that really nifty bottom section. You have to spend a stone to use the boosted part of it, the bottom section. Pretty nice. Now that I understand it, I always get tricked up by the turn and the round differentiation. Got to be really careful to read that and understand the difference. Okay. Where were we? We were rolling through the cleanup phase. So we replenished the market. Now we draw our hand back up to 5. So we're going to get 3 new cards. We pulled the wine merchant. We knew that was coming. A chariot, a green card, aka food to boost. +2 of the tech. If you play this card for movement, you get +1. Or boost it for 4 tech. If you play this card for movement, +2 for movement. All right. Basic tech movement boost. And then the Princeps Civitatis. I think this is the unique good card for us. We already saw Civil War, which is our bad card. Generates 2 industry. You may immediately influence the capital, regardless of where your leader is. Cool. So that means we don't have to have our leader there to drop an influence token. We can immediately influence it, even remotely. And if we boost it with stone, we can get 4 industry. You may purchase any card from either market for exactly 2 of the monies. All right, so, you know, that puts banking, and it saves us 1 on banking and saves us a bunch. If we tried to get the Domus, it would cost us 5 normally. We could get it for 2. I'm assuming an ability like that takes precedence over the negative condition for City of Marble, where it cost me 1 extra. Cards usually trump other effects, so I'm gonna go with, I'd only have to pay 2 instead of 5 if I wanted to grab that. So that I'm gonna have to think about a bit. Next question is, do I have? I need 4 industry to put up the insula. I could generate 5 if I discard a green card and use the top part of the ability. So I wouldn't have to boost it to generate what I need to get the insula on the board. Or I could get 4 out of that and then do the cost savings. I don't think I'm going to try to set up another trade agreement, so I don't need the tech, and movement isn't really important yet. So I can't use things I buy immediately. Other than I can, if I buy a development, I can actually put it into play, because one of the 3 choices is to put it in my hand or in my hand or into the active projects. Both of them can be played immediately, either for location. If I put it in my discard pile, I can't. I have to wait until the end of the round and the reshuffle. Oof, 8 industry, 7 industry for me to get that up. I would really need to get a lucky hand draw. I got 6 more cards in my deck. That means we're going to hit the end. I've been burning through all of my cards. We're going to hit the end of the round before I hit the turn marker at this rate. Now, this has consequences. And I haven't played enough to get a good feel for just how severe the consequences are, but consider this. I talked about how the round ends. Either when the turn marker naturally gets to the 1, because we're in round 1, as soon as the turn marker hits the number of the round you're currently in, that triggers the end of the round. The other way is if you run out of cards in your deck during the cleanup phase, when you're drawing cards, if you go to 0 cards, that triggers the end of the round will be after the next turn. So you get 1 final turn to play any remaining cards in your hand. And then the round ends. And it's looking like if I burn all these cards, we'll have 1 card left, which means I think we'll lose 1 round if I actually burn all my cards and keep drawing heavy out of my deck. The consequence of that I want to mention as a possible consideration is the trade agreements. The more turns I get out of the trade agreements, the more resources I generate. If I end a round early, I'm giving up turns of resource generation. So I can imagine possible situations where you might not do things, not play cards from your hand or try to set things up, because the benefit of doing that is less than the resources you're going to lose if you happen to end the round early. I don't know how tightly tuned the game is to the difficulty level and the game length that you would need to worry to that level. I don't know if, for example, on normal difficulty, which we're on in standard length 4 rounds, if the game has been tuned and balanced to such a fine point that even an advanced player only has like 1 or 2 rounds of misfortune or unoptimized play and still manage to possibly eke out a victory on average, or if there's like a 10 round gap that you get to play with and make mistakes in and so on. I have no idea of just how tightly tuned the difficulty to the goals are. But it occurred to me that that's a thing, that burning through your deck and flipping the round early is going to cost you resource generation. And one of our big benefits is the ability to get all these trade agreements set up without having to move around. So we can get these set up quickly and early and benefit from the long-term resource growth. So that is a consideration. All right, I know I want to try to get the Insula out, so I need to come up with 4 industry to do it. I can do so from the top or bottom. I'd have to discard a green card. I could discard my Chariot. Not too worried about extensive movement still. Our empire is pretty tightly organized and with just one little column here so far. I'm not having to do a lot of movement. And since I don't have to move for trade agreements, and I think I'm done with trade agreements for now, we don't need to move. So I think that's what I'll do. So let's just get this started. Let's go ahead and do the Wine Merchant. Just for the top ability, and we're going to discard the Chariot to earn the 5 industry instead. So discard you, or play you, discard you for the additional. That gives me the points I need for the Insula. Play it down right there. I'll lock it to the board. And by playing that, we gain 1 population, which doesn't do me a whole bunch. Population doesn't have any kind of a boost or an additional benefit that it triggers. It's primarily used, I believe, I haven't seen all the cards yet, but I believe its primary use is for the taxation ability on the capital. Gain 1 strife, and then gain 1 gold for every point of population. So if you manage to grow your population like that, I mean, if we get this Domus up and grab 2 more pop points, that would slide us up to a 3. I think at that point it would be worth getting a strife or 2 voluntarily, doing the taxation option, because we'd be gaining 3 gold each time. So, if we can manage to get that Domus up, I would consider it. And I think there's some cards that trigger off population count, but the only known one that I've seen so far is that taxation option. Okay, so Domus is up, our Insula is up. We got our population bonus, we get 2 victory points. Next up, we can generate water off of it if we influence it and spend that influence. As soon as I drop an influence token on the Insula, the lightning bolt symbol, at that point, we pay a stone and gain 3 water. And while it's influenced, the second one, Mingle, we can do the readying in an adjacent development. What that means currently is if I influence the fountain, I would be able to use the Muse action twice. Unfortunately, that fountain doesn't generate a resource that I could generate twice. But the other option would be I could use the Muse option and then flip it back up to then be able to also use the Inspire action, depending on timing, where my leader is. Hopefully I can get something good here and here that we can use the ready and adjacent development to flip it and use it twice. Breakthrough, discard a card to gain 2 resources of its color, I guess. That generates resources as opposed to the normal attribute. But this also, I could influence for tech. I could get 3 tech, and then flip it back over and do it again. That's somewhat interesting. That one, we could generate iron. Double generate iron off of that one. Wonder if maintenance triggers when you refresh an influence token. The influence token's already there. I'm a little fuzzy on that, actually. I think it's the act of placing the token itself that's going to trigger the when influenced lightning bolt symbol. But I could be wrong. I might have to actually do some research on that. 1 second. Let me write a note. Alright, I'm gonna, if I get this set up, I'm gonna play it that it doesn't. It only counts when you actually drop the token, not when you flip it back over. But seems like an edge case I don't remember a specific ruling on. What the hell was I doing? I've been explaining things for so long. Oh yeah, we're still playing cards. Alright, so we got our Insula stuff done. I gotta decide, do I want to move? I should probably drop an influence token here, so let's do that. Just dropping it doesn't trigger anything. There's no resource for me to collect, so I either have to use it for the savings of cost on the advanced attribute, but I can now, at my discretion, also, anytime I want, pay a water to gain 3 stone. No water currently. Alright, we'll leave that. I think I will... Do we influence the capital? Does it benefit me? Not going to do a festival to pay a gold and trash a strife card equal to my culture total. I would like to get out of this round without taking another loan. We're only going to get 1 gold for a strife card for tax. I don't think that's worth it. Even getting 1 more population and getting it up to 2 gold per strife, at that point, I would consider it. I've only got 3 of these. I can only put them in 3 places currently, and I think I might want to move here and influence this one. I do have a stone to pay the maintenance, gain the 3 water, which would then give me the water. To do that again. Do I want to... I don't have the industry to do. Could I have done that? took 5, 4. They think I could have stretched it. Actually, I think I could. If I had done the bottom boosted one instead, that would have given me 8 industry, used 4 to build the insula, left me 4 remaining. Boost that for an additional 4, takes me to 8. And I could take the ability to purchase something for 2. Crap. Yeah, I could actually pull that off. And that produces water, so I could build the insula on either side, or the domus on either side. Alright, I gotta think about this. Is where I talked earlier about the analysis paralysis. This is exactly the kind of situation I'm talking about. Now that I'm looking at the cards and playing them in a certain way, if I'd done things very slightly differently, instead of 5 and spend 4 for 1 remaining, I could have done 8. I would have had to have spent a stone, which I do have, to boost. That would leave me 4. Then stone to boost that, which I do have, would give me another 4, is 8. Plus, I could spend 2 gold. Oh, hell yeah. Alright, we're going to retcon this a bit. Alright, I still need to discard the chariot for part of this to get the 8. So everything is still pretty much the same. Only thing that's changing is sending a stone. Boost this card. Then discarding the chariot for the 8. Built that. Took 4, so I've got 4 remaining. Then I'm going to spend another stone to boost Princeps Civitatis to take the bottom option. That takes me back up to 8 industry. And we're going to purchase this. Purchase this. For the 2 gold. 4 down to 2. Then we're going to build it with the 8 points we've got. That is going to... So we're out of industry points. Use the bottom ability. Card is now. We get +2 on our population. 3 victory points. It has the option to generate 1 stone as the always in effect amenities. Domus must be placed. Yeah, so we did that. Oh, what was below this thing? I forgot to get this. Miss an opportunity when I place the other one. What's under you? Oh, skill sharing. All right. Some spaces have a when developed bonus. Wanted to make sure I didn't miss one. Well, when developed bonus is this, the little castle tower symbol, resource deposits. So when I develop this particular space, we discover resource deposits and I gain 2 food. These 2 had the boot symbol for when the leader is on the space. So okay, and then while it's influenced, we can study, pay an iron to gain 2 stone. Alright, so we met the build conditions, we paid the cost, we got our pop, got our victory points. Okay. Then I think with this last card... Oh, shit. Remember that whole conversation I mentioned about not burning through my deck and not using all my cards? You know, forget all that. Just ignore. Ignore I even said it. Oh, man. Alright, we're going to spend that. We know we're going to get 2 movement points. 2 movement points. I'm not going to bother moving the token. I am going to... We've got our token. I'm going to inspire. Oh, wait. I don't have the water yet. I was going to generate water backward. All right, so we got the 2 movement. We're going to move here, drop an influence marker. Running water, pay a stone to gain 3 water. So pay a stone, 3 water. Then we're going to use the ability here, the Inspire ability, to pay a water and gain 3 stone. Doesn't flip the token. So back down. 1, 3. Then I don't need to use the other ability, so I don't need to flip that. So we're not going to get to use the mingle option. Don't need to trash anything. This doesn't have an ability that I can bonus gain from it. Damn it. I need something here that I can get good results off of by flipping the token to double use it. Something like iron production. So the bridge would be a good one there. I could produce 2 iron, flip it back over, and produce 2 iron again. Yeah, that's my plan. Bridge is going to cost 3. Okay. Alright, I got 1 movement point left. Do I shuffle over? If I shuffle over, I'd have to drop my last influence token. I want to influence the capital instead. We're now up to that 3 population. I could take a strife and do a tax action. Didn't take the top one, so I can't do that. Never mind, so I can't influence the capital right now. Is it worth putting in a counter here? I pretty much want to go the other direction. I don't have a direct iron generation setup currently. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to move over there to set this up. Entering stone I've already got. I would like to have the option, just in case, but I'm limited in how many of these I can get until I can raise my technology level, and I got to get to 2 before I can get another token, influence token. Not sure when that's going to happen. Alright, I don't see a benefit to move. Maybe if this was a skill share, but it's not. I'd have to go all the way with it. Alright, I'm out of cards. I can't influence the capital. I don't want to take a loan. Really low on gold. Yeah, I do want to move. I think I'll move up towards the capital, actually. We'll spend my last movement point to get me there. Next turn, we'll move up to the capital and do the tax action. Get some more cash. Alright, we're good. Out of cards, out of movements. Don't need to do anything else. When did we have that conversation? Early. I talked about it. Unless you mean what conversation? Because I told you to forget that conversation. And I get you. Alright, so end of turn. Alright, end of the action phase. Clean up. No resting actions to the leader. Remove influence tokens that are spent. There are none. Discard all played cards. Out you go. Replenish the market. We get another farm. 2 farms. Food generators. Cash generators. So again, I have to develop the bottom 5. I can develop anything else I want, as long as it doesn't have an enemy on it. For farms, I'm assuming the optimal would be a farm, a farm, a farm, a farm, and then you go here to trigger the ability of the farm. Gain money equal to the number of farms adjacent to this one with a ready influence, but that also means you have to have your leader bounce, drop an influence. Bounce, bounce, drop an influence. Bounce, bounce, drop an influence. Bounce, trigger. Well, you don't have to move to trigger it, but you still have to have your leader running around like crazy just doing farming influence to really gain from that. That seems like a pretty specialized setup, but I mean, 3 gold for 3 influence? There's got to be, I know there's like, I think there's an aqueduct card here somewhere that influences the farms. That just seems like an awful lot of, you're having to spend cards for movement and your very important influence tokens and have farms in lots of positions adjacent to each other. You got to get all that set up to generate gold. That just seems like an awful lot of effort, work, cards, influence. That's why I'm worried that there aren't very many other... That better not be the only gold generation option. I'm trying to find another way. I'm going to try to generate resources like crazy. And hopefully be less leader frenetically running around the countryside based. All right, markets replenished. Draw a new hand. Ooh boy, we got 6 cards. We're drawing 5. What do we got? We got Discipline. Combat card. Discard a red attribute card for 4 combat power, or discard a non-red attribute card for either 3 tech or 3 industry. Or similar, but increase the numbers. Got a Physician, Culture, or at the bottom, Culture and or Tech. The Onager, Tech or Combat Power or more Tech. The Engineer, when building a development, spend 1 of any resource to gain +2 of the needed attribute. So I could spend a resource to gain 2 attributes, which is needed for actually constructing. Or, when building development, spend 1 of any resource to gain +4 of the needed attribute. That's pretty good. That's really good. That's really, really good. You can put up a building pretty cheap with that. All right. And then finally the Physician. Culture, a little bit of research. All right, all pretty basic. Engineer's the fancy one. And I'm not feeling a huge press to do anything with any of these. Maybe the Engineer. But I only got 1 card left in the deck. All right, so we've drawn our new hand. Time to move the cube. So we've got this turn plus 1, 2, 3. Oh man, how did I run through my deck so quick? We absolutely would trigger this early. We may just sit here and generate resources for a while. All right. End of round, or no, not end of round. So start of the new turn. Nothing in the projects area. Now we get to trigger our trade agreements. So 1 food, 1 water, and 1 iron. Iron 1, food up 1, water up 1. That's the end of the active projects phase. Back to the action phase, where all the fun stuff happens. Oh boy. What am I going to do? I honestly might just sit here and do nothing for a round. So I do not yet have my gold generating engine. With what we have currently, I have to play a card in order to move my guy to get up here to the capital to be able to do the tax action. I don't want to. If I play anything, we'll trigger end of round. So if I played even a single card, this would be the end of the round. So I would actually lose 2 rounds of resource generation. Now, this is where my inexperience with the game, I don't know if it's worth just hanging out to gain 2 food, 2 water, and 2 iron. Or would it be better? I don't see why you wouldn't. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, playing things isn't going to speed up. Whether I play these now or play these later, I don't think it really matters for the overall length of the game. Anybody think of a reason why I would not make sure that I wait out my trade agreements getting their bonuses? Yes, if it's tightly tuned, timing-wise, and I thought I could get stuff. Work. Pretzeling my brain a bit. If I went ahead and spent cards, triggered the end of the round. Yeah, I think it's to my benefit to hold tight and make sure I generate those resources. Otherwise, I'm not... Because the game plays out over a set number of rounds, I'm trying to get to a certain victory point goal. Losing access to 2 rounds is going to be very important. And I don't think anything I'm going to do is going to change if I wait 2 rounds and then do it. Market's not going to change. My hand's not going to change. The enemies don't move. It's static. If there were random variables that were occurring, most games don't have quite this static an environment. Everything happens based on what I choose to do. So since there are no random variables other than the initial setup of the game, when you first shuffle the decks, after that, I don't think there's a single random variable other than the deck shuffle, your draw hand deck shuffle at the end of each round. Nothing else changes. The board state is frozen, the market is frozen, everything else is frozen. So there is no reason I can think of that I would not make sure I wait out my trade agreement and then wait 2 turns and then trigger the end. Well, what could happen is if I wait things out, the reason why waiting these out and getting the resources is important is because as soon as I get to 4, I can do the exchange action and get a gold, which then would let me purchase something or do something without changing my deck size. All right. I'm going to try the waited out strategy. I can't yet come up with a reason why I would prematurely end the round when I have free resources essentially available to me. So, towards that end, I am not planning on using any cards, because if I use a single one, we trigger round end early. That means I can't move, because we have to play a card to get movement points. I can do things with cards that I have influenced already, or by influencing where I'm at. So we could do the Inspire, pay a water to gain 3 stone. That would jump me up to 6 stone. We could do an exchange action and get a gold. Got the water. That one I can't directly influence. That one only does the pay 1 for 3 when I drop the token. So I'd have to use it, clear it, move there, drop a new one, and that would then trigger that. So it's not quite as good as this one. This one just, I can do it whenever I want. This one only triggers when I do that thing. But we do have the use option. I wish I could have gotten capital so I could do a taxation. Need a little more cash. What can we do with potentially 3 gold if I do the conversion on the stone? Let's assume I'm going to do this. So we are going to pay the water and pay the water. Gain the stone. We're up to 6. I'm going to say I am going to do the exchange action. So we're going to drop that back to 2. And we're going to gain a gold. So is there anything critical that I can buy for that amount? You have the option of flipping this to make the cost 2. For anything I want on the top row. Well, that really only affects the cards. I don't. I mean, at some point I need to go an adventuring and killing some of the enemies, but I don't want to do it yet. Am I willing to buy the bank? Or do I pay 1 for the patrician, which is a culture card, paying gold to increase the amount? I'd rather avoid paying gold for anything, but that's a lot of culture. That would really help us put up culture-specific developments very quickly when that card draws. It also adds a card to my deck on the top, which I could then draw without advancing the turn. Same with the bank. So if I did get the bank, it would be buy it for 2, then I'd have to pay 1 to put it into my projects area. That would wipe out my current gold supply. The space that I'm in now, please tell me it costs. No, it didn't. Culture to build that one. So wrong resource type. If I was standing here, we'd be able to trigger it. So I wouldn't be able to trigger the bank because we're not standing in the right spot. But I could do the return alone if I had a gold. I'd have it in my hand. I could do it the next turn. See, I'd have to play it for the top effect so that I could get the long-term benefit. I'd only get the full next round and the last turn or two of this round. I'd have to be spending industry every round to trigger the gain. I don't know. What are we looking at buying? That's an industry card. That's a culture card. That's the other fountain. Got reflect or... Oh, wait. Do we have a... Do I go with the fountain instead of the bridge? Really like the double industry or double iron gain possibility there. But the other fountain gives us a tech point, which doesn't help us yet, but gets us closer to another influence token. Plus, it generates 3 research, which we could double up with the other ability adjacent. This also has an adjacency, which if adjacent to a development produces water, which the other one is, then up to twice per turn, we can pay 1 food and gain 3 water. So we could do 2 food for 6 water every turn without using the influence token. Oof. I don't have a lot of food generation, and I don't have a way of converting something over into food like I do these other ones, where I'm converting like water to stone and stone to water and... Another 3 water, though. I'm hoping to get to a point where I can consistently generate 4+ of 2 resources. So I could reliably have like 2 gold per turn just from resource generation. Sure I can manage. I really need to take advantage of that population bonus. Otherwise, I don't think this Domus was worth it if I'm not taking advantage of it and doing taxation and grabbing strife cards. But if I go that route, in order to get rid of strife cards, you have to spend culture points. I don't have a lot of culture generation either. Hence, looking at that. Oh man, what to do? This is the so many different coordinated factors, analysis paralysis I mentioned. Fairly simple mechanics and turn progression, but oh man, the twisty, pretzely brain contortions you have to do to keep track of this and try to find the optimizations. Just don't like that you pay a gold. Gold's really hard to come by. So I should talk about combat real quick, because it has an impact on this kind of decision making. I've mentioned gold is so hard to come by. So we have 11 enemy counters on the board. They always set up the same way. You do your 5x5 randomized territory grid around your capital. Then you randomize the enemy counters, of which there's actually 18. 7 over here, and there's 11 that you always place out in this pattern. Shuffle all 18 up, and you deal 11. So the way combat works is, as soon as I move my leader adjacent to any enemy, you flip them over to reveal them. So here's what would, for example, reveal. So what this says is at the top of the card, top left is their defensive value, top right is their attack value. The way combat works is you move your leader unit onto a space with an enemy like this, and then you have to generate combat power, just like we generated the other attributes. We play cards, we use abilities on our territories, whatever we can find that's going to generate combat power. You generate combat power, and whatever number you generate, you compare against the top 2 numbers. If you bring at least 6, which is the defense value he has, then you defeat him. You need to bring additional combat power above that, matching their attack power, to block their attack damage. So if I wanted to take no damage from the fight, I would need to generate 10 combat power to defeat this unit. If I brought 9 combat power with me, I would take 1 wound, and wounds are, you have to draw a strife card. Every wound you take, you draw a strife card. So if I only brought 6, I could beat this guy, but I'd have to draw 4 strife cards for damage. That's the entire combat system. They don't move. You always get to pick the fight. You can move your leader unit on top of these enemy counters with no effect. I can move onto and through them wherever I want. I just can't use any of the card abilities under them until I deal with these guys. So it's always your choice when to do the fight, and you always want to count things up carefully to make sure you understand what's going to happen. It's completely deterministic, no random variables. So the bottom numbers, bottom left, you earn victory points for conquering the enemies. We'd get 2 victory points or glory points. And on the right, gold. We'd earn 3 gold from conquering this guy. We have to find a way of generating 10 combat power to do it safely, but doing so would earn us gold. So going on a military rampage could be an income generator for us. But that means that your hero is off in the wildlands killing enemies and not back home dropping influence tokens on developments to generate all these effects. I have no idea the balance. Hence we're playing right now. But that's what these enemy counters are. And they are randomized. They're different. So like there's a much, much easier one. Only need to bring 5 total power, but correspondingly you get no victory points and only 1 gold for that fight. I don't know how far the variance is. I think this is one of the strongest, and the picture kind of tells the story. 4 and 2, 5 and 0, 5 and 0, 6 and 0. They're big ones, 6 and 4. So you get the idea. All right. So, and I think you could play the game out without ever doing a single fight, which I could do if I didn't have that problem. I have to go fight at least 5 enemies and then defeat the barbarian army. So we have no choice. That's one of our victory conditions. We have these 3 edicts. There's actually 10 total edict cards. So you shuffle the entire deck of 10. Your choice of difficulty level and length of gameplay, it'll tell you on the chart how many edicts you need to draw and use. You always draw 1 more than that number. You then look at all the ones you drew, pick 1, and put it back in the box. So you pick 1 to not use. Then you're stuck with resolving the others. These are also double-sided. So the card base, bottom right corner, has a filled hourglass. That's a full edict, just aka the hard mode of the edict. And then below it, the flip side, is an empty hourglass, which is a partial edict, aka the easy side. So full partial, hard easy. And it just lowers the numbers, basically. But depending on your difficulty level choice and such, it will dictate how many and which sides to use, as well as how to calculate the victory point total you need to acquire. All right, so, that's a bit of a longer side journey into a part of the rule set we haven't talked about yet. I think we've covered just about everything now. Can't think of much I haven't discussed. I haven't really talked a lot about cycling cards being useful when you have a big pile that you don't want. Trying to get to the ones you do want. Haven't really delved into that yet. All right. So, oh great. Where the hell was I? Oh, I was trying to decide whether I want to use my cards or not. Man, this has been a long decision. I like the idea of this one. I just don't think now is the time to go for it. I think I might grab the Patrician. I think I'm going to need some culture points. Let's actually look at these. Maybe going conquering is their goal. Place it. Oh, another projects area one. Gain 2 gold after every successful conquer action. At the end of the round, you must pay 1 gold and discard the card. All right. So that'd be a good one to grab on like turn 1 of a new round. Problem again is that would go, you'd have to use that in your projects area, so you wouldn't get to use the bottom section if you did so. But that would be a really big gold generator. It's 7 rounds to go conquering if you could pull it off. I don't think I have enough combat cards in my deck yet to really do that. There's probably only 4 or 5 total. And I don't have the developments out that would do me much good, like the Armamentarium. Or... Well armed. Once a turn, gain combat power equal to your population. So basically, we'd have 3 free combat power every turn. If you put an influence token on that, and just let it sit there. That would be a big help. So yeah, I can see, I mean, I knew from my initial reading and examination and rules and so on, I could see a lot of fun potential for different builds and different focuses, and the leaders are all asymmetrical. But getting over this analysis paralysis hump, understanding what's possible within these decks, and having a good feel for kind of what to go for when you notice what you've been given initially, that's going to take some time. I don't know. Not sure what to do. This is a time where I'm just going to bite the bullet. Let's go ahead and buy the Patrician. Get our card deck upgraded by 1. Every time we include a card or increase our card count, we are lessening the possibility that we run out of turns, or we run out of cards before we run out of turns. So it's good to keep increasing the size of the deck in that way. It also dilutes the deck, which anybody that's done card games knows about deck dilution. I don't know how much of an issue that is in this one. Alright, I need to spend my 1 gold. Our poor. Felt like we had cash. And I think that's the only action I'm going to take. So, let's roll forward to the cleanup phase. Resting leader actions. No tokens to pull. No cards played to discard. We do replenish the market. Out comes the bathhouse. Culture equal to 2 times the number of water you currently have. Culture equal to 2 times the number of water you currently have. Okay. I mean, if I wanted to start generating water, getting 1 per turn from trade, and do the... Well, that's only when I drop the influence token. Oh, that's the trick. I didn't consider that. I'd have to... Okay, never mind. I could burn the influence token to generate the water, and then drop a new one the next round to activate the stone for water. Alright. Yeah, that's very interesting to me, because I could jump up to 6 or 7 water pretty quick, and that's a huge amount of culture to build buildings with. And the bottom one, boosted action, pay up to 3 water, gain 5 industry for each water so spent. God dang. That is... Damn, bathhouse. You got some beef. That is one of the biggest multipliers I've seen so far in the attribute deck. That's the kind of card that you build strategies around. I mean, you only get to play each of these cards once per round. So they go into the deck, you draw yours, you play, you draw yours, you play, you draw yours, you play. Then when the round ends, you shuffle your deck, and then the next round it will come out again eventually. But it's only once per round, but still. All right, we have replenished the market. Draw a new hand. We are at our max hand size. No card draw. Advance the turn cube. Yes, sirree. Top of the round. No active ingredients or no active projects. Trade agreements. Food, water, and iron again. Food and water. Action phase. We have one card that we could play, theoretically. So I could play a movement card and get my leader up here to do the taxation act. So back to our resource generation. Get water to gain stone. Can't do that one unless I generate the water heat. Afford to do with only 2 movement points. I can't afford to backtrack to drop a new influence token to trigger that top ability again and then get all the way back up here. If I had 1 extra movement point, which I won't get until I upgrade industry twice, I could do 1, 2, 3 and make it. Otherwise, I'd have to play 2 cards, which we don't want to. So I am going to play the discipline card for movement point. Here. Don't have an influence over there yet to use to generate stone. Flip the token and generate stone. Another thing I need to get done, but can't get back here to generate the gold that I think is more important currently. I got to it. You can see we're already reaching the point where it's going to get really hard to generate gold. We're going to get deep into the loans. More we have, the more we're going to have in our hand for dead cards. So you got to figure out some way of getting resource and gold generation fairly early. Not quite there. So I can't do anything there. That flipping a card isn't going to help me. Not flipping one here. Unless I choose to use the purchase, switch, gold left. Buy anything I want. But we didn't change that list other than how we did the bathhouse. Screw it. I'm going to buy the bathhouse. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and trigger this for that ability. Buy the bathhouse for 1. Then we're going to trigger this. Do I want to water or leave it? I can't leave it. It's going to go away at the end of the triggering it. Wait. It doesn't trigger for this. Triggers. I'm going to use the ability here that doesn't require triggering to flip that back over. And I wish this space generated. Pay a water to gain 3 stone? Sure. This for a water, and then come back next. Stone to water conversion going again. I think so. Let's go ahead and flip this. We'll use it to do the water generation option. I'll cover that. Go that way. Okay. So we've got movement points. Move back to the capital. And I'm going to drop an influence token. And I'm going to spend the influence token to tax the masses. We're going to gain a strife card, and then we're going to gain 3 gold, 1 for each population point. So strife card into the discard pile. Up to 4 gold. Okay. I think that's it. Got one more movement point. I could leave, but I'm going to stay so I can tax again at the beginning of next round. Grab another strife card for another $3. That will fund us for the next turn or two, hopefully, to get another building or two out. Yeah. All right, action phase complete. Cleanup. No resting leader action. Pull my spent influence tokens. Guard played cards. Replenish market. We got Textile Merchant, 3 Industry. This turn you may choose one attribute card that provides culture or tech. The chosen card instead provides industry. So it's a basic ability. You don't have to pay for it. You both gain industry and take another attribute card and convert it into it. But do you get just the top portion it provides? Or can you... Gotta be just the top, right? You can't imagine you could pick the boosted action of another card. It doesn't specify, though. Bottom is just a stronger version. You do it with 2 attributes. Generates a lot of industry. But, yeah, how would that work? So, for example, go with the basic one. 2 culture. Or 4 culture. Or... Oh, I think I see. So, I play this card, I gain 3 industry. I can then pick another card, and everything about the card stays the same, except just substitute the industry symbol for the culture or tech symbol. Then when I play that card, however I play it, regardless of whether I play the top or bottom, I get to use the industry symbol instead. That's how it works. Alright, I understand. That's pretty cool. That gives you a lot of variability. Like. I do have this available, and we have some gold. Do it. Wait, we're in the middle of the phase. We're not in the action phase. I'm replenishing the market. I gotta remember where I'm at. I like that. I like that as an addition. That provides good variability. You get a benefit. And then you can boost you can make it kind of a wild card benefit for other cards to stack up. So that one card would pretty much guarantee you could get whatever structure up on the industry side. And my anticipation is we want to get Tech 2 or Tier 2 industries or Tier 2 advancements up or developments. And that they're going to be pretty expensive. I haven't actually looked at a single card in this deck yet. I can just imagine they're pretty expensive. And we're going to need much bigger numbers to build them. So having these kinds of multipliers is probably going to be really important. Yeah, I got to remember to do that. Don't let me forget to do that. I've got so much stuff to think about. All right, back to the turn refresh. So markets have been refreshed. We do get to draw 1 card. That's going to be the one we bought, the bathhouse. And advance the turn cube. All right, so now it's safe for me to play cards. Because we're going to play the round out. At the end of the round, we're going to draw, which will then trigger, if we weren't going to hit this, it would trigger us having the 1 more round. So we're safe from here. So I waited out the 2 rounds of development for my trade agreement. So we're back to being able to do stuff. Okay, back to the active projects phase. I got no projects. Nope, you got no projects saved up below, so I don't have to pay for any. And we get our payout for our trade agreements. Water, food, and iron again. We got some points to pay for some boosting actions without me having to use gold. That's one of the other big reasons to get some attribute generation going. So you don't have to sub in the gold for the boosted actions. Okay, we've got our payouts. Back to the action phase. Things to do. So I did not use that yet to buy that card. Okay, how are we going to do this? Order of events is so important. I am going to tax again. I know that for certain. So we're going to drop that. We're going to flip it. We're going to tax again. Draw yet another strife card. In our 3 gold. Take it back up to 7. So that's done. I've got 1 influence left in play. I am likely going to want to move... Really, I don't have enough influence tokens, I think, to warrant putting an influence over here just for the occasional stone generation. It almost doesn't have enough other options. As long as I have the token here, I get this conversion. But I'm only generating 1 iron per turn with no other way to really generate it. So, thanks for the population boost. Beyond that, I don't see the value. I could have gotten that. I couldn't have put it anywhere else. Had to be adjacent to the water production. Alright, I still need to get something over here that really takes advantage of that flipping of the token. I occasionally can make it useful here, but I'd really like to get the resource generation. That bridge is still looking tasty to me with the 2 iron generation. And it's on the cheap end to buy. I like the fountain too, though. 3 research. Plus, convert a food into 3 water. That would give me so much water production. Not quite as controlled. Nothing there that gets me too exciting in comparison to getting, yeah, adjacency influence flip bonus. Same with the farm and the farm, unless I go all in. I need to, since I'm actively trying to avoid the farm strategy, would love to get rid of these with some industry points. Cycle them, get some other stuff out here that I might be able to get some efficiency maximizations out of. So if I can get 2 in for 2 industry I'm not using elsewhere, I'm gonna get rid of those. Cycle them. We do that before. Bridge also potentially gives me the movement bonus, but it would be tucked way down here. If it were up somewhere else, I'm going to be moving a lot to get rid of these. I'd be more enthused. I want the adjacent bonus. I mean, I could forego that and just put the bridge... Put the bridge here. By building here, I would get 2 iron. And then... I put an influence token on it in anticipation. I'd have to move the leader here, put an influence token on it, pay a stone. Then the leader would immediately get safe passage. I would have already have had to have paid, unless I set this up ahead of time, but I would have already have paid at least 1 card for movement to get me here. Then I would be able to play another one. Yeah, I'd have to play another movement card for +3 of its normal value. Then we could move a lot. That would only be important kind of a little bit later when I'm trying to reach. So if I pick a corner, I have to defeat 5. I don't know which ones are which yet. These could be 5 hard ones. It could be 5 easy ones, could be a mix. What would be better? Having that over there with the option to help me out with movement, saving me cards long term, plus getting the 2 bonus industry or iron. I think it might be. I think what I might do is buy the bridge, get it built adjacent to the capital on the left or right side, whichever. Cycle the farms, and hope we get, between those three getting cycled out, see what we've got for choices to put in this position. I think that's what I'll do. Alright, so the goal is to purchase the bridge. That's going to be 3 gold to purchase. Don't have a way of lowering the cost there. Go back to look at my cards again. So we got... I got as much industry as I want with the bathhouse. Or to build it. I got no industry cards other than the boosted option at the bottom there. I'd have to boost it with a water and then pay a water. And I could gain 5 industry. Put that up. That would give me 1 bonus industry I could use to get rid of one of the cards to cycle. Discard a second card. Or an industry point to cycle the other. 1 more round. No, at the end of this round it's going to cycle. So I got to use up all my cards. Which means I didn't quite time it right. That's right, we have the engineer in hand. I get both? It cost me 6 gold to buy both. Do I go for the armamentarium? 3 free combat power would be really good. That would be 4, 5, 6, 7 to buy both. We have 7 exactly. That needs combat power to build, though. I'm not generating combat power this round. 2 is not going to be a 3, 4. You may attack one enemy in a base adjacent to your leader. I assume the same combat requirements apply, even though it would seem like you're making a long-range attack and you wouldn't be affected by the attack back portion. I mean, you're lobbing huge stones at somebody a couple 100 yards away who's armed with a dagger, but he still gets to hit you back. That seems a little weird. Effectively just means you don't have to move your leader. I'm going to make a note of that too. That seems weird. Pretty sure I'm reading more into what it should do, logically, than what the card actually intends. Hot oil. Gain strife to increase this to 5. Gain strife to increase this to 9. I mean, if you're a culture generator, you could use these kinds of things because you could gain the strife and then you'd be able to pay it back off. So you'd be a culture warrior. Kind of entertaining. Well, do what the... need to start figuring out armamentarium. We're going to be 1 round out of 4 done. I haven't done anything towards that that objective yet. I don't think I can afford to do both. I think I need to keep my gold in case we flip good cards that I'm desperate for. I think I'm going to do the bridge next to the capital. I'll look for a better one to put a jig. The double use of the iron though. That's 4 iron. That's basically 1 gold each turn. Assuming my leader's over there to drop a new influence token. At the expense of a stone. So there is a negative. The first time I drop it. That though I can... Oh no, I have to keep spending it. Yeah, that's actually only a net income of 1 resource. Because you're going to have to spend 1 to gain the 2. Spend a stone to gain the 2 industry every single time. Oh, not quite. You drop the token initially. You spend it to gain the 2. You drop the token, lose a stone, spend it, gain 2 iron. Flip it back over with the other adjacent area's ability. Spend it again to gain 2 more. So it's 1 for 4. It's a net 3 gain. As long as you've got a leader in the area that can keep dropping an influence token. And assuming you're not using that mingle ability for any other locations. Once per turn. Oh man, I'm really torn. Alright, I'm gonna go with the bridge now to go adjacent to my area. I'll get the bonus 2 and then we can generate occasionally there. And then I'm gonna initially plan on dropping the fountain down south for that ongoing reflect ability. It doesn't actually use up the token and has the option to generate research when needed. Yeah, unless something better shows up when we do the refresh. All right, so how am I going to do this? I'm going to do that now. I need 4 industry. I am going to need to do this. So that means I'm going to have to spend 2 water. 1 to activate the boost, 1 to use the ability. 2 water gets me 5 industry. 2, 5 industry. I'm going to spend 3 gold by that. I build it. It leaves me 1 industry remaining. Building it gets me 1 culture points directly. Also gets me 3 victory points. Leader's not there to drop an influence. So we're done with that. I still have 1 industry point. I'm going to spend that industry point getting rid of a farm. So 1 farm goes back to the bottom of the deck. I'm out of industry points. Okay. Else critical for this. Haven't moved. Taxation. Save my gold, or do I want to do the inspiration again? Water. Burn 4 of those for gold. Could generate 4 research. See, if I were to go after a trade agreement, got one more trade agreement token. I'm going to get another one if we get another culture point. Where would I go? 6-point stone gain. Water. Could do a short-term one here. Get 1 water now, 1 water start of next turn for 3 ends. I'm going to develop here, and it would give me my token back anyway. Quick 2. Gonna get to 6 research. What I got? If I boost. Boost twice. Or do this. We have enough to get the fountain up. Free to buy it. I need 2 culture to build it. That with the top of that card or the well, both physics. Ah, what the hell? Who needs money? Alright, 1 attack and 2 victory points. Get me any. Get 3's not enough. Get 1 more influence on the tech chart here so I can get a 4th token. Alright, I spent the money. I exactly the culture I needed to build the fountain. Really don't have money to buy anything else. What am I going to do with the rest of these? The engineer is going to go to waste. I think actually I get to hold him through the round changeover. Yeah, I can save cards. All right, we're going to save the engineer. We're going to use one of these cards for travel. So I think I might go over here. Let's use the other physician. 2 movement points. Go here. Blast him. Maintenance, you must pay a stone. Don't. You get 5 more move, 6 move. If I played a card. Do I need to get anywhere? Oh, second effect. So anytime you're adjacent to enemies, you get to flip them. Let's see who our enemies are. 7-2 and a 4-5. Those are on the high end of the difficulty factor. 10 being the worst I've seen so far. So that's a little rough. Guess you value your worth by the quality of your enemies. Alright, so my option now, I could burn the token for the 2 industry, or I can leave it here for the later possible movement. That ties up one of my 3 influence tokens while I do that. But I think instead I'm going to go ahead and burn it and just take the 2 iron. That takes me to 6. I'm just going to go ahead and turn 4 in. What was under this card? Did I gain, anybody remember, did I gain my 2 iron when I built there? I feel like I gained my 2 iron. What I mean is this hat. Deposits I gained. I am going to assume I did not. Unless somebody tells me with absolute certainty, contrary. Alright, I have 1 movement point left. I'm just going to... What do? Do I stay here? So next round I can drop another influence token, go here, drop an influence token to do 1 more taxation. Yeah, I think I'll stay here. Wait it out. Alright, anything else I need to do? I'm going to hold the engineer card. I think I'll hold the onager. I'm going to discard the onager for an industry. If I discard it face down, I can pick any one of the attributes I want. I'm picking 3. And I am going to pay to discard this other farm. Cycle the other farm card with our... Okay. Keeping the engineer. I think we're done. That round took forever. I had so much things to think about. My brain. I'm starting to figure things out, though. As I get more familiar with the combos and the possibilities and all that, this will speed up. Okay, so cleanup phase. No resting leader actions in the space that I'm in. No boot symbols. Pull off our influence tokens. They're spent. Discard our played cards. I've already done. Replenish the market. Yes. Get thee to the front end there. Get cheaper. Grab the entire stack. Alright, what did we get? We got a watchtower. 6 military to build. Increases your military by 2. Would do what for... Oops, industry is hand size. It would take us to 2, which would give us 1 extra hand size. Take us from 5 to 6. In addition, oops, generates an iron. While influenced, vigilant, enemies adjacent to the watchtower have attack values reduced to 0. Really? And that could at max affect 2 enemies, and then the tower is useless for that ability after that. Not sure. You'd gain permanently the hand size increase, and you'd have the trade option if you spent an influence to pay an iron and a water to gain a gold. So instead of a 4-to-1 of the same type of research exchange, you'd have a 2 resource for a gold trade option. I mean, it's more efficient. It is a gold generator. Plus it has the iron deposit, but I don't know that I would use that too often given the limited amount of influence tokens that you have to deal with. But having the tower in the area does give you things you can influence while you're conquering. So I guess that's not too bad. Interesting. Sculpture is new. 3 culture, so 2 for me to build. Adds a culture. Mind stone. When an influence token is placed, it gets inspiration. If adjacent to a development with an industry build cost, draw a card. Okay. Artistry. Spent. Gain 2 food or 2 water when you receive any stone or iron. But you have to use the influence to do it, so you'd only gain that ability. Or not. So you activate artistry, and is it from then on through the turn? Do you gain those bonuses when you receive stone or iron? Through any other methods? Or is it a one-time thing? I'm a little fuzzy on this one too. Is this an action you perform, spending the influence immediately after gaining stone or iron, so you can gain either 2 food or 2 water in addition? Or is this a condition that stays in effect that then triggers every time you gain stone or iron for the rest of that turn? The way it's worded, it makes me feel like it's an effect that stays in play, but that sounds like a nightmare to keep track of. Question. Moving on, a villa. Population increase, 2 population increase. That would take us to the maximum 5. 7 industry to build. Generates water. Ongoing effect beyond the city. Villas may not be adjacent to the capital. Entertain when you spend an influence token. Pay 1 water or a food to gain 3 stone. So it generates water, which you can then pay to gain stone. And you get the pop bonus. Just has the limitation that you can't build it near the cap, adjacent to the capital. Pretty good if you're doing a taxation-focused build. Culture to pay off the strife. You tax the people, they get angry. And then you have culture generation that allows you to pay off those strife cards to return them back to their deck. That sounds like a pretty good income generator as a counter to the farm strategy. So we've seen cards that would be good for culture, both to go to war and to generate income. Might have to try that if we can get the right combo early. And then another sculpture. Is this the same one? Yeah, same one. All right, that's some interesting options. A watchtower. I would like to get a look at these 2 enemies before I make a decision which way to go. I've already got the bridge over here. I'd have to replace it with the watchtower to get the benefit against these 2 guys, but I could put the watchtower here and then I'd get the benefit against 3. Yeah, if I were going to put the watchtower up, it would get that territory benefit against 3 different enemies. All right. Continuing on. So we replenish the market, draw a new hand. You know, sure. So we're going to end the round with our engineer, patrician, and the merchant. Not bad. Advance the turn cube. May end the round. It definitely does end the round. So there we go. Turn cube has hit the number 1. Round 1. This advances to 2. Goes back to the start. Next time through, it'll end when we hit the 2. It always ends when the turn number matches the round. And we have now advanced the round, so we've got a few other things we need to do. We need to flip over our trade agreements or end lasting agreements. So we're in, we have long-lasting agreements. So the way this is tracked, these don't end until the round after they're set up. So we have one more full round for these trade agreements. So at this time, we just flip these over. This side, they're still in play. They're still on that side. But when the next round ends that we're coming up on, because we'll see that there's already a flipped over token here, it just lets us know that it then goes to this spot and it's over. Then it's done. All right, so we flipped over the agreements, shuffle the discard pile into a new deck. Discard pile shuffled. Look at that. Look at that. We got 27 cards now. Now I don't think we'll have a problem now with running out of cards early. We had 16 when we started. Wow. How did I get to 27? Did I really buy that many cards? I bought 11 cards over the course of that number of turns. None of them are developments. There's no way I bought 11 cards. How am I at... Oh! Loans and Strife! Loans and Strife! Never mind. I totally forgot about that. So yeah, the more... see, Loans and Strife are good. They're good things. They build up your deck count so you don't burn through your turns too fast and end the round early. My future strategy will be to just get this down to 1 loan card and 1 Strife card. You know, that way I have nice long turns and don't have to worry about it. I'm sure there's no negative consequence to drawing 5 loan cards into my hand and being able to do absolutely nothing during a round. That'd never happen. All right, mystery solved. I did not buy 11 cards. I took out a bunch of loans and Strife and bought a few cards. Next up, advance the round marker. We did that. Return the market cards and replenish. Oh, I forgot about that part. All my strategies are dust. Oh, I forgot. All right, so here's something that happens at the end of the round, and only at the end of the round. All the market cards go away, and you draw replacements. So this whole row is now gone. We don't shuffle or anything, so we're still going to get the new cards off the top. But all of the old ones are gone. Get to see new cards. The other way to cycle the deck. Around replenishment. Alright, we'll take a look at those in a second. All of these are gone. Alrighty, I'm not going to look at those quite yet. And that is the last of the end of the round triggers. So you adjust your agreements, you shuffle a discard pile in a new draw deck, you advance the round and turn markers, and then you completely flush and replenish the market board. So that is the end of round 1. We are up to 12 glory points. Our victory total that we need is 43. It's the 25 at the bottom of that card, plus the 18 at the bottom of that one. So our goal is 43 by the end of the game, and completing all of this stuff they're listing, of which we're not getting much progress yet. I guess I could start throwing stone at getting the Roman wall built while I work on the southern territories as well. We need only 2 more developments to finish the first part of that card. 2 more developments, we'll have all 5 down south built. So I don't feel like that's out of reach. That seems pretty manageable. The 5 level 2 developments, we've got to... Damn it. We have 5 developments built. That triggers our access to the tier 2. So I could have, instead of doing all tier 1s, chosen tier 2. I'm going to say that I'm going to have some advanced knowledge, but I want to look at some of the tier 2 developments. So I'm going to say I drew 2 tier 2s here at the beginning. I don't even know what those cards were. I didn't zoom in to see them, so... Let's take the first 2 as tier 2, and the rest is tier 1. Take a look at those in a second. Alright, so yeah, 2 conditions for getting access to the tier 2. Have 5 developments on your Empire grid, or get to tier 3, where the tier 2, or the round 3. That's where the tier 2 also activate. So we got activated 1 round early. I think that's pretty good. Getting 5 up in the first round is good. We're 4 cards deep into the lone deck and 2 cards in the strife deck. I think that's also pretty good. Got some resources on hand. Could use some more gold, but we're in the process of getting the gold generation engine rolling. So I think we're in pretty good shape. I mean, we're a quarter of the way to the victory point goal, and that's going to increase as we get the better developments out and we start conquering. So I think we're on a good pace. My limited experience with the game so far. Alright, let's take a look at the cards, and I think I'm going to end the stream here. I think I'll do a stream for each period, unless I get a bunch of time. It'll go faster now that I've got some experience, and I got a little better grip on the progression pace. So, let's take a look at the cards. Nothing else has changed. We've got all the changes done for the end of round. Now we just start over again, back to the normal turn sequence. So, don't need... Okay, start up here. We got Oxen, green card, 2 technology, and then also pay 2 stone or iron to trash a lone card in your hand or discard pile. Trashing a card is where you can get it out of the game. It goes to a discard pile that's right here. But when you do trash a card, whether it's a lone or a strife, you then also have to pull a card from the appropriate matching deck and trash it as well, which shortens your safety net. So anytime you see the word trash a card, that's what it's talking about. You're not returning the card from your hand to the decks, which is when you pay them off. You're trashing it out of the game, and you have to take 2 of them. The other one is just a little stronger version of that. Ballista... 2 combat power, gain +1 for every... That is your tech chart. That's the dark version. That's this version. So you gain bonus based on where you're at on the tech chart. Apparently you have... The higher your tech is, the stronger your weaponry is. So you get a bonus combat value for having high tech. I like that. That's cool. And then combat power equal to twice your tech. An interesting combo to try to set up towards for a combat-focused engine. Siege Tower, 2 combat or trash a card in your hand. I mean, okay, 4 combat power, you may trash a card in your hand or discard pile. If you do, gain a resource of the same color as the card trashed. Why would you trash a card in your hand that's not lone or a strife card? And those don't have. Oh, wait, they do. Culture and... No, I don't think those actually count for colors. What cards would you trash? Are you allowed to trash your unique bad card, like my Civil War card? Not sure I'm allowed to trash that. I'm not sure why you would trash another card. Unless it was just like a low power card you never planned on using, I guess. Seems like a pretty excessive thing to do for 1 resource. That one's a little odd. I don't really get the Siege Tower bonus. I'm going to jot another note. I'm going to look that one up. See what BGG says about how that's useful or why somebody would do it. Okay, Mancio. 4 industry or 6 industry or 6 military. 1 card played face down this turn provides 2 of any attribute instead of 1. Kind of interesting to have that dual benefit at the bottom. And then astronomy. Place this card in your projects area. Man, they like to make you place cards in your project area. You got to pay for those. When you build a development, you may spend 1 resource of the color that corresponds to its build cost to gain 2 monies. If you do, discard this card. So, what? Place it in your projects area. Then every time the turn sequences, you have to pay a gold while that's there. I mean, I guess if you immediately used it, so you have to buy the card for a gold to begin with at a minimum. Play the card in your projects area, then immediately build a development, spend a resource, and earn 2 gold. So you already had to spend 1 gold, so you've only got 1 gold left. So you're basically selling 1 resource for 1 gold 1 time. Why? I mean, yes, it's better than 4 resources for 1, but it just seems still a little weird. Or, bottom section, spend up to 2 influence cards on developments to provide research enhancements on your character board, your leaderboard, to gain 1 gold for each. And up to 2 influence on developments. So, okay, so it means if I, like, yeah, so that produces the technology bonus, the sextant in the black square, which matches technology sextant in the black square here. So if I influence one of those developments, I can do it up to 2 of them in one, and I can do it twice, 1 on each if I have 2 developments like that, and then I can gain a gold for each. So I gotta drop influence on it, then I gotta spend the influence, and I can earn money that way. And it doesn't discard the card. Wait. It discards the card regardless because you're using it for the ability. The other one doesn't go into the play, it goes into your projects, and you can hold it, but that would be stupid. I don't understand astronomy. I really don't. You do not want to hold that card in your projects area. You immediately lose any benefit if you do. Because the next turn, you're going to have to pay another gold for it. So, why do you even... why? Yeah, I don't understand astronomy. How many cards am I going to pull where I can't figure out the reason? I get the bottom part. That's fine. Don't understand the top part. That just seems silly. It's still a 1 use for turning a resource into a gold. But I guess the theory is if you got it early, you had to pay the 1 gold to buy the card initially, but then you're going to get to use it. Well, I mean, if you get it in the first round, you get to use it 3 more times. So you would get a net gain a little higher, but it just still seems really fiddly. It does look like a pretty good generation engine for gold for a tech-focused empire. That would be a little tough to set up, though. You'd want 2 locations with the tech bonus near each other, so you could have your leader step on, influence, use, step on, influence, use that gold generation. But gold's hard to come by, so I don't want to understate just how important that could be. So I love it for the bottom one. I'm confused about the utility of the top one. All right, next up, what are we looking at? Bridge again, Mausoleum. I don't think we've seen that one. 4 culture to build, increases top and culture? Really? So increases culture, which would get us to 3 and get us the extra trade agreement. And then would take us to 4 on the pop, which would make our taxation, strife for taxation, give us 4 gold payout. And it would... doesn't generate culture directly. for us to try paying off strife cards. I still need to figure out a way to pay off strife cards if I'm going to use those kinds of strategies. Oh, we got 2 mausoleum. A Vorm, another new one. Whoa, look at this thing. Holy crap. 10 industry to... Oh, this is the first of the tier 2s. Alright, so we finally get to look at tier 2s. I've never even looked at these in the deck, even when I was doing all my research. So 10 industry, that's not out of reach. 10 industry doesn't seem too bad. Get you 2 of the industry for your upgrade, so we'd get 3 movement points if we built that. 3 movement points per card that we use. 6 victory points for the total, or glory points. I keep calling them victory points. And it generates either 3 industry, 3 tech, or 3 culture. So not a resource generator, but an attribute generator. But a very, very versatile one. Commerce, which is an ongoing benefit as long as you have an unspent influence on there. Up to twice per turn, pay 2 same type resources for 4 different type resources. Wow. Now that is powerful. Twice per turn? Wait a minute. Holy crap. Is that the kind of power up efficiency we're going to get on second level? Second tier? That's ridiculous. So I could pay 2 stone to get 4 water and then 2 food to get 4 iron in 1 turn, and it does not consume the influence token? And I assume by 4 different type resources, it means you have to pick 4 of the same different type resource, not spend 2 of the same type and then gain like 1 of each of the other 4, well, 3 of the others, and get the type back. That's got to be 2 same type and 4 of a different type. Triumphal Procession. That one you'd have to spend the influence on, exchange any 2 same type resources for 1 gold. So it makes the exchange efficiency, it doubles it. That one, you would again have to be there in the area to be dropping new influence tokens to use over and over again. Is that... Wait a minute. So, without expending the influence token, I could convert 4 resources into 8 resources. Which means I could then sell the 8 resources for 2 gold. Yeah, that's still not as good. Alright. Alright. Ah, 2 forums! Did I not shuffle that deck? I'm going to cheat peek at this deck and see if they're stacked up with all the cards adjacent. I can't remember if I shuffled this deck, and I'm worried they're all stacked. So let's flip it and just take a look at the bottom 2. No. Are there 2 amphitheaters? There are 2 amphitheaters. Alright. I'm not going to remember. Come to them later. Alright, I guess we just got an unlucky draw. Pretty sure I had done full shuffles when I set the table up. So, unfortunately, we managed to get 2 mausoleums, 2 forums in our draws. That is, I'm really interested in the benefits of those other tier 2s, though. That is really powerful. It's quite the massive upgrade. Now, we can replace existing developments with new developments. The trick to it is it just adds 1 thing to the process. Exact same process you've seen. You just have to spend 1 gold during the building of it. So at the time that you're spending the 10 industry to build it, you have to also spend a gold to pay for people to come demolish the earlier one, and then you just lay the new one on top of the old one. So you can replace the previous one. Okay. That triggers another question I don't think I remember coming across. My question is, if you do the replacement, do you lose the leader bonus that provided? So if I build over top of this, do I lose the +1 culture point that I gained and replace it with the new one? Or do you always keep it just because you built one at some point? I don't remember the book manual actually clarifying. All right, that's it. That's the review of the cards we've got coming up. So all in all, I'm feeling pretty good about our current status. I think we got a fairly decent start to an engine going. We can get a couple more of these tier 2 cards out, and I might focus on just cycling a few more cards out of here to get more tier 2s up and start working on getting some of these, because wow, that is so versatile, so useful. Just a question of, do I have the generation ability with my cards currently to reach those build numbers? This is one where if I put it down to that adjacency bonus where I could reflip an influence token, I could do Triumphal Possession twice. Get 2 gold per turn. Or I could mine it twice for the attribute. So yeah, all right. I think I'm going to stop there for now. So we've been going for a while. Lots of yakking, lots of figuring things out. It's an interesting economy engine building puzzle. I see a lot now that I'm getting a little more familiar with the actual gameplay elements and the progression and pacing. I'm starting to understand some of the synergy possibilities and how you would build out and do things differently based on your initial card draws, and which bonuses you get, and how they might be applied with adjacency improvements and so on. I found it interesting that we found a couple of ways that doing a culture focus could actually be something you could lean into to help out with warfare and money generation in different ways, depending on the cards again. So it seems like, I still don't have a feel for just how much wiggle room there is, but it seems like cycling cards to get through the deck to get certain synergies that you know are possible. You get like half of a really powerful synergy and you start cycling focus just to get that other card that you know is going to be in that deck. The decks aren't that deep, so familiarity with what's possible is going to be a huge factor in success, I think. All right. That's enough for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. I shall return for some more Rome, Fate of an Empire, at a future time. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there.